A landmark announcement this week from Ohio Governor Mike DeWine.
This is the next big thing that we're doing in Ohio. This is a company that is going to be around for a long time. They're relatively new, and they've just gone up like a rocket. They're going to continue to do that. These people are innovative. They are bold. They take risks. They're the type people that we have to have in Ohio to continue to grow Ohio.
How this brand new defense technology company is bringing the biggest job steal in Ohio history. 4,000 of them. Plus, the economic forecast for 2025 is looking a bit of a bust compared to years past. We find out why with the experts. And paving the way to end traffic troubles in Fairfield County.
I see a lot of elderly that have a hard time getting in and out of their cars.
What's being done to get cars moving in downtown Lancaster? Welcome to This Week in Boomtown. 2025 is going to be a year of big change. We are talking transformational change from new jobs to major infrastructure projects. It's all there. So here's a look at what we uncovered this week in Boomtown.
They're the type of people, type of company that we need to have in Ohio, and we are so happy that they are here.
A major government contractor coming to Central Ohio. Take a look. And that is just the beginning of Anderol's future in Ohio. Thanks so much for joining us for This Week in Boomtown. I'm Angela Ann. Nearly 3 years to the day that Governor Mike DeWine announced Intel was coming to Central Ohio, another major employer is making a massive jobs announcement. And this time, it's a company that makes drones for the military. 10 TV's Kevin Landers reports from Pickaway County.
It may come as a surprise to some that Ohio would attract a manufacturer that makes drones for the military, but state leaders say they've been trying to do this for 2 decades, in part because of its proximity here to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They go by the names of Ghost X, Roadrunner, and Fury, killing machines called autonomous drones designed for the battlefield, soon to be made in Pickaway County.
We have an obligation to protect our men and women who we send as a country in harm's way. And what Anduril is doing is giving those men and women who protect us the tools that they need to defend themselves.
Over the next 10 years, Anduril promises to build a massive manufacturing site not far from one of the most preeminent military bases involved in drone warfare.
And one of the reasons that they decide to come here is because of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
5 million square feet, equivalent to 90 football fields, will be the footprint for this defense contractor. It says the electronic battlefield requires the product it makes.
The conflict in Ukraine has exposed a critical vulnerability in the United States' ability to respond to crisis.
The company warned in time of war the U.S. could find itself without enough weapons.
The United States would run out in the first few weeks of any conflict, and lead times to replenish key weapons and munitions average 2 years.
The state says landing Anduril will likely act as a magnet to other suppliers, further strengthening Ohio's role as the Silicon heartland.
Because it sends a signal to not only other defense manufacturers, but also tech companies that Ohio is not a flyover state.
Anduril says it plans to pay its employees $132,000 and plans to have its first drone roll off the assembly line in 2026. Reporting near Rickenbacker Airport, Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
Kevin, thank you. So let's take a deeper dive into Anduril and its founder, who says the company mission is to basically transform defense capabilities with advanced technology. Anduril is a young company created in 2017 and based out of Southern California, but they have locations from Seattle to Massachusetts to London. The New York Times calls Anduril an AI military startup. The company founder is Palmer Luckey. the same guy who started the popular Oculus VR, a brand of virtual reality headsets. Anduril describes itself as a leader in autonomous systems and weapons manufacturing, and many of its unmanned air vehicles are built for fighting and finding threats. Now, you can imagine this announcement is all the buzz in Pickaway County. Anduril's facility will sit on 500 acres, dramatically changing that landscape. 10 TV's Tara Jabor talked to county commissioners and people who live there. And she says they think it will help people stay in the county and get a high-paying job in their own backyard.
Defense technology company Anduril is making its way to Pickaway County.
I think that's a good thing for our community. Any upbeat of attraction, I think, helps us as a community and brings jobs here, and it will help benefit the world we live in.
County Commissioners Gary Shear and Jay Whipple say this project will diversify the workforce in Pickaway County. Whipple says the county used to be known for manufacturing, but that industry left and a new one is here.
The exciting part of what to expect is the job opportunities for their family. You know, we always like to keep our graduates here in Pickaway County, and this gives them opportunities to have good paying jobs.
On top of bringing in 4,000 jobs, this development will bring in more tax revenue, helping schools and roads in the area. However, what is now known as a rural county could change.
It's not a question of doing away with our farmland. I think, preserving our farmland is one of our objectives, but so is growing jobs in Ohio. These are both, they're not incompatible.
Commissioner Shear says the impact of Anduril will go beyond Pickaway County.
An industry that is very exciting. You read about the technology that Anduril is building now and what they will be building in the future. It's going to have an impact on the entire United States, on our defense system, and around the world.
If construction goes to plan, then the company will start manufacturing products in Pickaway County in July of 2026.
So it's kind of hard to say at first. Everything that's new is kind of like growing pains, but I think eventually once the growing pains are done, that things might benefit all around.
And we do have much more extensive coverage about the Anduril announcement on our website. You can go to 10tv.com/featured links. So while the Anduril announcement is spurring excitement about high-paying manufacturing jobs, not all sectors are feeling the same. Here's 10 TV's Colin Dorsey. He went to the experts to find out why.
New housing, new businesses, and more people. That's been the driving theme behind Central Ohio in recent years, but 2025 might carry a different tune.
Looking at the forecast for this year, do we see that continuing?
This year, not so much, I'm afraid. Population is growing, but our job growth, I'm expecting to be only 4,500 jobs, 0.4%.
Compare that to what Regionomics owner Bill Lafayette predicted for last year, 9,800 new jobs. But he says the region really only generated about 5,200.
It's a lack of workforce with the skills that employers need. The labor force has been growing reasonably well, but people aren't getting hired.
But construction and healthcare are still growing and expanding. OSU economics professor Joyce Chen is a bit more hopeful about the region's 2025 future.
The fundamentals are there. I'm really optimistic about Central Ohio. I think what remains out there is uncertainty about what might be happening with national policy, and some questions perhaps about where the state legislature might go.
In recent weeks, Huntington Bank spun off 3 downtown buildings to Downtown Columbus Incorporated, a nonprofit developer. The troubled Key Bank building also saw many of its tenants leave last year. Chen says as businesses utilize remote work, this could be the opportunity to use those empty buildings to bring more affordable housing to the city.
I think with some of the new zoning proposals that are up, it definitely could be, and I hope that it will be in the future. We definitely need denser housing and to repurpose some of this existing construction.
So Colin Dorsey is joining us now to talk a little bit more about this. And Colin, we're really hearing both sides of this issue. Some optimism out there, but also the fact that this won't be as big a boom as people would like. So is this a trend, or what are we thinking.
Right. According to economist Bill Lafayette, he says it's a hitch, but it's a hitch we need to pay attention to. It's not going to be a long-term thing. And where he comes to that from is his job numbers prediction. For this coming year, 2025, he's only expecting the region to generate about 4,400 new jobs. Now, compare that to what he was talking about last year. He had expected the region to generate more than 9,000, but finishing 2024, we only came out with about 5,500 new jobs.
And do you think that is because a lot of people were worried we had a presidential election, now we're going into a transition of power? Were people just being cautious?
Well, some of that does play into a part, according to him and along with OSU economics professor Joyce Chen. But one of the things that Lafayette also told me is that it comes down to the people who are moving here. We do continue to see more people move into Central Ohio, but those folks aren't moving here with the jobs or the skill set that these employers are looking for. Construction, healthcare, both employing at strong numbers, but a lot of other things still pretty short.
Yeah, not hitting that mark. Something I found really interesting that I heard coming out of this meeting was tariffs and how that might affect Ohio. A lot of people don't even think about that correlation. So what did we learn?
Right. There is some concern about those tariffs because, according to Lafayette, he doesn't know exactly what they're going to look like when and if they take effect. And obviously, there's that part in there about who pays for the tariffs. If we put a tariff on China or another country, we pay for those tariffs. So in the end, it comes out of our pockets. And also there's the counter effect of that. If we tariff China, they tariff us back. We saw this in the previous Trump administration, and we saw how that affected our ag sector.
Yeah, especially our farmers and everything. Okay, so there's no question also that we saw and that we know COVID certainly changed the landscape of downtowns everywhere, especially in Columbus. We're now seeing, Colin, some companies changing the game in 2025, saying time to get back to work, 5 days in office. Is there a real push, do you feel, from employers to do this so that they can help maybe bring businesses back, increase that job hiring?
Right. According to Joyce Chen, it is a little bit of a factor, but at the same time, remote work is kind of now just a factor of the 2020s. And that obviously has led to a lot of empty buildings downtown. We talked about how Huntington Bank spun off those 3 buildings. We saw a lot of tenants leave Key Bank as well. So in her words, it gives us an opportunity to reevaluate what that space can be used for, including maybe addressing part of our housing affordability crisis.
Sure. And it all affects the job hiring, too. I mean, it's a kind of a cycle, right? So whether you're going to hire somebody and are you going to allow them to do that work from home. Here's something interesting also, the housing market. We know housing is a hot topic. We used to be really hot across the country, but now other cities like Buffalo, Providence, Rhode Island, they are now at the top of the list. We're not so much there anymore. Is that a concern for home buyers?
Well, anybody who's tried to buy a home in the past couple of years, including myself, knows just how hard it can be. Those prices are, one, competitive, and they're expensive. But with other areas starting to come into being hot zones, that Buffalo, New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Joyce Chen says this will maybe provide us at least a little bit of a break, maybe giving those potential home buyers maybe some more time to think it over, or prices won't be increasing at the rate they were. And that'll maybe fill that buffer until we get some more housing online.
Interesting. Well, congrats on your new home. I mean, did you feel like finally you had to either, finally do it before things changed even more? Like, what made you say, I'm going to do this?
Right. Well, I'm still looking, actually, because every time I find one that I like, it's gone.
It's gone.
And
that
that's
quick.
how fast the market's been moving.
Okay. All right. Well, in Colin's world, we're still a hot market. So thank you so much, Colin Dorsey, for all that information. It's only January, so I'm sure more to come and more to change this year.
All right. Thanks, Angela.
All right. Thanks. So now, with more than 1 million people expected to move to Central Ohio in the next 2 decades, our roads have to be able to handle all that traffic. This week, we learned about the Linden Green Line project. It's a 7-mile stretch along an abandoned rail corridor in Franklin County's South Linden, North Linden, and North Lind neighborhoods. The $12 million investment will help connect 4 community centers, 19 schools, and 3,000 local businesses. Now, when construction begins in 2026, the Green Line will be the only safe pedestrian and bicycle access to the new soccer facility at Kilbourne Run Sports Park. It'll also provide better access to the Linden Community Center. Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther said in part, quote, "This project is more than just a linear park. It is a lifeline that improves the overall quality of life in Linden." Well, this week we also learned that the city of Lancaster is about to undergo a major road study, $800,000 to help build a more efficient city with less downtown traffic. 10 TV's Kristen McFarland went to Lancaster to see what drivers face every day. And here's what she found.
It's a familiar sound on Main Street in the historic downtown.
It's bad. It's bad.
But at certain times of day, there can be truck after truck after truck coming through.
The city of Lancaster is flourishing downtown with packed restaurants and families enjoying the ambiance. But it's also a main road for semi-truck travelers.
Really a negative thing when you've got excessive truck traffic, the fumes, the noise with the brakes, and it really takes away from that experience.
I know when I walk out with my little babe, I'm like worried and like holding her hand really tight.
For the past several years, customers eating outside at O'Hood's Gaelic Pub have complained about the noise of semi-trucks rolling through Main Street, and the owners say that when the trucks are making tight turns here, they even go up on the sidewalk. Through the federal funded study, roads, traffic patterns, and air pollution will be evaluated.
This dream can actually become reality.
The ultimate dream: to reduce travel, lessen traffic, and expand and connect the city's roads more efficiently.
When we create spaces for people and not as much cars, when we put the focus on people, we create more community spaces where people have an opportunity to connect with their neighbor.
The study is aimed to be complete by the fall. In Lancaster, Kristen McFarland, 10 TV News.
Kristen, thank you. Now, Delaware County was the fastest growing county in the state during the last decade. Between 2010 and 2020, the county's population increased, look at that, by 22%. That's according to the Delaware County Regional Planning Commission. That growth is bringing a lot of traffic. And tonight, 10 TV's Colin Dorsey is looking at a plan that's been talked about for years.
Don't worry, I'm not driving. That's photojournalist Tyler Hoffman. Now, if you've driven Interstate 71 anytime in recent years through Delaware County, you know just how congested this exit can get near the Tanger outlets during those peak commute times. But there might be a solution on the way. It's part of the growing pains of a growing region, more traffic. According to ODOT, this exit at routes 36 and 37 along I-71 carries more than 36,000 vehicles per day.
I think it's gotten a little worse.
Rhonda McCown deals with the exit twice daily just to get to and from work at Farrell Harley-Davidson.
Delaware's kind of a booming area. It's really grown in the last, I'd say, 15 years. I remember going north of here when there was nothing but like a Wendy's and the McDonald's over there, so it's grown substantially.
Now the morning and evening commutes can mean long lines of traffic. Take a look at this photo from ODOT. Cars stretch down the ramp and onto the interstate.
How long have you been stuck in traffic here before?
How long have I been stuck in traffic? I'd say about an hour to get from here to Polaris one time last year. Yeah. Pretty frustrating.
This ramp was changed in 2013 and again in 2016 to deal with the growing traffic, but it's not been enough. Now there's a proposed plan to build another exit south of this one. It would extend out to Wilson Road to connect to I-71 and then to Route 36 on the west side. However, this plan would trek through about 6 acres of wetlands, meaning plans to reduce impacts on them have to go through the Ohio EPA for approval, something ODOT has already submitted. And don't get too excited, this proposal is still in the studying phase. Now, the Ohio Department of Transportation estimates this project to cost almost $32 million. In Delaware County, Colin Dorsey, 10 TV News.
Colin, thank you. Before we close out this week's episode, we want to pay tribute to someone who helped shape Central Ohio for the past many decades. Don DePero unexpectedly passed away last week. Truly a tough loss for the Columbus business community. He recently retired as the Columbus Chamber of Commerce president and CEO. Before that, Don was the publisher of Columbus Business First for 20 years. We had the chance to work with Don closely in the past year as 10 TV launched our Boomtown series. His insight, expertise, and pride in Columbus truly shined in everything he said and did.
It's amazing to me in living in the region now for 29 years, how many people are here from other parts of Ohio. You know, they've come here to go to Ohio State or other universities, or their job brought them here, right? Or the Huntington or AEP or Nationwide brought them here, and they stayed. They loved it. Great place to raise a family, great public schools, great school system, and it's just a great community in which to live.
The Columbus Chamber of Commerce had this to say after Don's passing, quote, his ability to connect people, build relationships, and advocate for our business community set a standard of excellence that will guide us for years to come. Truly the epitome of a public servant. Well, we're glad to have you joining us for This Week in Boomtown. We're just starting 2025. So much more excitement is ahead for us this year. Be sure to watch our streaming original Welcome to Boomtown on 10 TV Plus, and you'll see why we're here to seek solutions as Central Ohio grows. I'm Angela Ann, and thanks again for watching This Week in Boomtown.